This should be coming on this one, right? Now? The music?
Yeah, I just to test the sound.
Yeah, ഒരു 2 സെക്കൻഡ് அந்த மாதிரி கேட்கலாம். இந்த மியூட் அன்மியூட் பண்ணணும் நினைக்கலாம். ഇതിൽ വരുമ്പോൾ നല്ല ഇത് ഫുള്ളാக തന്നെ വെച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. Trend Huh? Can't read it, right?
Can't read. Well, now how we can understand. Yeah, now we can. Now we can. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
do have extra time, obviously, well, since we started later, in the sense of when we can adjust our timing if we need to.
So my first talk will be 45 minutes, 1 hour. How much do you want? I can adjust accordingly.
Let's do 45 minutes,
Okay.
and then the next part of it.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Prasanna Nayak, who coordinate this event from the temple site, that is the Hindu Temple of Central Texas site. This time it is my pleasure to invite the chairman of the board of the Hindu Temple of Central Texas, Madhav Bera. Madhav?
Thank you, Prasanna. Good morning, everyone. I just want to welcome you all for the workshop at Hindu Temple of Central Texas. We have been doing this for over 10 years. So we are truly honored and privileged to host you all for this purpose. I want to say a few words about the temple itself here. I don't want to miss this opportunity to introduce temple to you all. So before I do that, I also want to thank Swamiji for doing this year after year for all these 10 plus years. And we're really privileged to have you, Swamiji, and thank you. So the history of our temple is that we have been in existence for 20 years. This is actually the 20th year. We built this temple with a clear purpose in mind. One, to meet the spiritual and religious needs of the Indian community and Hindus around. But we have a bigger purpose. One is, how could we support educational needs of the community around us? Schools, colleges, universities. And also we do other community services such as free clinic and support Martha's Clinic, Martha's Kitchen, and other activities and meet community needs around us. So we're just about 30 miles from you all. I'm sorry you could not be here in person because of COVID, but anytime you want to visit us, it's like visiting India, but it's just a 30-minute drive. You come here, understand the deities, religion, and about India and its culture as well. I just want to mention a couple of things about what is going to happen today. The basic tenets of Hinduism is simple. One of non-violence, respect to fellow human beings, respect to women, and respect to animal kingdom and nature. And that would come very clear to you during the workshop today. And we're truly pleased to have this relationship with Baylor. I have one special request for you all. This is being transmitted through YouTube, and it will help us if you subscribe, hit the subscribe button. The reason that would help us is it gives us additional privileges to transmit these things much easier without going through a lot of rigmarole we are going through right now. So please take a second to hit the button subscribe as you watch this YouTube presentation. Thank you, and I will hand this over to Swamiji for his presentation.
Good morning. I will start with a simple prayer and introduce myself, and I will present to you the tenets of Hinduism. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good morning. Namaste to everyone. The Hindu greeting, Namaste, means I bow down to the divinity within you. We believe in the existence of divinity which is all-pervading in all objects and beings on this planet, galaxy, universe. Divinity alone prevails, and this is the highest thinking of Hinduism, as we will see. My name is a mouthful, Swami Shivatmananda. It is an ordained monk name given to me when I took the holy order of the renunciation in 2015. I was born in India, raised up to the age of 12. I came to this country, finished my middle school, high school, did college over here, worked as a hardware design engineer, and then calling was there to enter monastery, so I went back to India to finish my seminary school. I left my home around the age of 13 and left my home to the monastery at the age of 30, and finished seminary school, was placed in Los Angeles in our monastery in Anaheim, California. Then I moved to Austin, and presently I'm in San Antonio for the last 3 years. So that's my simple background. As we are pressed for time, I will move on. So we have, today what we are going to see is, I've taken Hinduism, and actually, you can see over here, Sanatan Dharma according to Advaita Vedanta. The most popular name of Hinduism is Hinduism. That is not the name that we know in India. In India, it is known as Sanatana Dharma. Hinduism is coined by people who, old settlers who had come and settled, couldn't pronounce the word Sindhu, is a name of a river on the banks of which people lived in a very unique lifestyle of living in harmony with the created world and with beings around. So they found them to be the most unique people, and Sindhu was not being pronounced, so Sindhu turned into Hindu, and that's the name that we have, just a simple little thing. But Sanatan means eternal. Dharma is ways of living. The dharma of water is sapidity. At room temperature, it is liquid. It wets. So it's called, the dharma of water is sapidity. The dharma of water is heat, and the dharma of fire is heat and light. The dharma of air is movement and to dry. So we have dharma of every single thing. So that's what dharma means. Over here, Sanatan Dharma, when it comes, eternal ways of living is what this is about. So the first fact about Hinduism, Hinduism is not a monotheistic or a polytheistic. Hinduism is a monastic religion. That means it only believes in the existence of God. We don't believe in the existence of some seventh heaven where God exists. We believe the all-pervading reality, truth alone prevails. Here and now, everything is nothing but basking in this light of truth. So we believe only God exists. Nothing exists separate from God. God is a supreme reality. It is referred to as Om, and this is a sound symbol of Om. There are scriptures written about the description of Om. Aum. The entire gamut of sound produced by any creature is captured, and that's what Om means. the origin of sound and the end of sound. So any name and form created in this world is basically this absolute truth. Om, the changeless truth behind all appearances, pure consciousness, at once immanent and transcendent, the divine essence of all which supports and pervades the universe. This is also known as Brahman, the great, the big, the vast. Without, it is referred to as the big, and within it is referred to as Atman, the smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest. These contradicting principles, yet that alone is the Atman, the self in me, the self in a little ant, in a monarch butterfly, which knows how to go through the entire journey from the Mexican forests all the way up to New Hampshire and Vermont. We don't know how this insect does that, but there is some intelligent principle in a brain less than a grain of a mustard. So that absolute reality which pervades this entire universe, and that is what Hinduism believes in. We believe in the existence of only God. Over here we have a rug. So the support of rug is nothing but the cotton fiber. Then we have a stage. The support of the stage is nothing but wood. The support of this is nothing but some plastic fiber. So everything, the support is the essence of what it is made up of. But then where did this support come from? This entire world of objects, the support is nothing but Mother Earth. And with the combination of these 5 great elements, it supports the entire visible universe. So we refer to that as Hinduism is not a polytheistic religion. You go to a Hindu temple and you will see umpteen gods. That doesn't mean that it's idol worship, that it is polytheistic. It is simply there to help navigate the journey of a soul. This mind has difficulty understanding concepts such as bigger than the biggest, smaller than the smallest. So to help the understanding to be facilitated with mind and intellect, Hinduism comes up with these beautiful ways to help evolve this mind to the higher states of meditation, contemplation, samadhi, so on and so forth. It's the journey of the soul is helped through the temple aspect, which is what I will be talking about in my next talk. So in this talk, I'm presenting Hinduism is not a polytheistic. It is Hinduism is monastic. Every Hindu knows that his beloved form of God is a supreme God. Hindus know that God can take many divine forms to bless us and to guide us. And it is more than monotheistic, it is monastic. How can we see God? God's everywhere. We can see Him when our minds are quiet. So the whole, you may have come across most Eastern religions like Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, all of these, they are the lover of peace and silence. Because only when the mind is at rest, mind is peaceful, mind is silent, absent of thought agitations, that silent mind can penetrate the depth of presence. Thus, meditation is a path that one travels on to go deeper and deeper within into one's own self. Only a purified mind, a quiet mind, and a concentrated mind devoid of thought agitations can see God. Remembering the presence of God everywhere, we know that God is within us and we have to come over it. So we have absolute consciousness, and then this chart which I'm using to explain, B stands for you may not be able to read this, that's why. Body, mind, and intellect. Body is a gross equipment. It is like a car. Mind, intellect, and then the perceiver, feeler, thinker, you see this is blue color. This is called a subtle body. There exists within us something that drives this instrument of our body. So the driver of the car is separate from the car. So this is the driver of the body, and thus it is referred to as subtle body. Whether a neurologist, a neurosurgeon opens the brain or a cardiac surgeon opens the heart, they don't see the presence of the self. Only the heart beating and the brain functioning is seen. The mind and the intellect are not physical organs. It is a presence of light according to Hinduism. And then the personality born out of that, the individuality, is I the perceiver, I the feeler, I the thinker. And I, when I refer to myself, I am a conglomeration of all my experiences put together. And through the lens of my eyes, the lens of the ears, the way I perceive the world, the way I process the world is how I respond to the world. Also, based upon the evolution of the mind and the intellect, some people are quiet and pensive, some people are vociferous, strong, so on and so forth. So the personality is all generated based upon our own experiences, and this is how we see the multiplicity world around us. So then if we are trying to understand who we are, the whole process of Hinduism is, we know our body, male, female, height, weight, whatnot, but that's not who I am. Neither am I this mind and intellect, neither am I all the experiences, but the one who experiences the experience itself. Who is that ultimate experiencer? So this is how we in Hinduism believe that the presence, God consciousness, God awareness alone is at the root of all our experiences, the root of all of our being. And we have created layers and layers on top of that self, just like an onion. We remove the layers of onion, and within we don't see anything. In the same way, when we remove all these layers within, we feel the presence. And that presence cannot be seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, because it is subtle, it is all-pervading. So it is known through this quiet mind, spending time in nature, concentrated mind, meditating upon, repeating. Every religion on this planet has, counting the rosary beads, just getting, that is only to tune the mind. Ave Maria, Om Namah Shivaya, whatever mantra we choose, it is only to help calm the mind so that we can go beyond the mind. Allowing worrying mind to rest and enjoying all those. So now, how is this creation? What is this world around us? If God alone is, then what are these objects? So Hinduism says, we believe that the formless, nameless, qualityless consciousness manifests itself as creative, preserving, and dissolving power of the universe with names, forms, and qualities. The world of matter arises in pure spirit. The entire world of phenomenon rises, exists, and dissolves in endless cycles of creation, preservation, dissolution. So we believe in a cyclic form. The cyclic cycle of birth and death is what determines our individual life, and that same applies at the totality level. The universe has come about and dissolved umpteen times. Since beginningless time, creation has been going on. And just like how we wake up, we are really fresh, we have our coffee, we have our breakfast, we are ready to go, work comes out of us, we try to achieve and work towards our goals, our dreams, our aspirations, so on and so forth. But we cannot just go on and on and on. We need more fuel, so we add food to fuel our body, and then we require rest. So in afternoon we catch a 5-minute just time to ourselves, and then we go on. But by the time evening comes, we require a lot of rest, and then we go to bed only to wake up 8 hours later and start the whole cycle all over again. Morning we are fresh, afternoon we are active, and in the evening we are dull. These three processes, the active mind is known as sattvic. Sattva is represented by Brahma and Saraswati, the imaginative mind, the creative mind. Active mind is represented by Vishnu and Lakshmi. The material world is referred to as the goddess of wealth. Everything is wealth. You know, somebody's garbage becomes somebody else's wealth, you know. So on and so forth. We see nothing is wasted on this planet. Even in the savanna, African plains, these big animals, they drop, and there are dung beetles even recycling the dung matter. So we see the universe has a very cyclic way in which it functions. The human life is also cyclic. We wake up, we go to bed, we wake up, we go to bed, and we go on for a certain number of years until we have used up the energy of this body in process of it growing, maturing, and then eventually decaying as we age. We cannot do very many things. In the same way, the universe also catches up. It just cannot go on and on and on. And necessarily, the solar system, the galaxy has to collapse just for another nebula to come about and start about the whole creative process all over again. Over there it is in trillions, billions and trillions of years. Over here it is just a mere human life. If we live 100, that's awesome. And imagine a fruit fly. 8 hours, the whole cycle is over for a fruit fly. So we look at how the universe functions. It is cyclic. And this is what Hindus have drawn out of their observations. The initial rishis, who were the founders of the founding principles of Hinduism, known as the Vedas, they observed. And the observation led them to meditation. And in meditation, revelations revealed to them the nature of the universe, and thus we call creation, which has taken birth in pure awareness, consciousness. What we look at this world, it is not at all dead. It is very much alive. You know, this planet Earth, she gallops around the sun. Imagine 30 miles a second. It's mind-boggling how fast the whole 365 days we have circled around the sun. And 232 million years, the sun makes a full circle around the Milky Way galaxy. If we just think about just physics and science and astronomy, it's mind-boggling how the universe, and like this, in Hinduism we say there are multitudes of galaxies. Just one galaxy for the sun to go around is 232 million years, something like that. So this whole creation arises in pure awareness. God's powers, generator, organizer, destroyer, God. When he creates the world, he was called Brahmaji and Saraswati. Knowledge is required. In the morning, we open our calendar and we figure out, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. Knowledge is required to plan out our whole day. And then action is required to make sure that we tend to each one of them. So action is represented by the protector, the sustainer. We also protect our lives, our careers. We sustain, we take care of our families, mortgage, all those things. So each one of us are living, walking, talking, wisdom-filled Brahmaji Saraswati, strength-filled Vishnu and Lakshmi. And then when we eradicate ignorance and light dawns, we are the destroyers of ignorance. That becomes Shiva and Shakti. Whatever is inappropriate, in order for us to grow and evolve, we necessarily have to discard old ideas, rotten thoughts, for them to be substituted by divine thoughts. So it requires great amount of strength. So the Hindu trinity of the three gods, don't think that they're sitting somewhere in heaven. It's right here in all of us. We are the power of the absolute truth. These are depicted in forms for us to understand. It is a tool required for this mind to adhere to the concept of God in duality, to reach the non-dual truth. It is not that easy to process. So we have depicted these powers of gods as names and forms, and we literally worship them to invite that power into us. One God worshipped in many forms. We believe that the supreme truth is one, but can be represented and worshipped in different forms. And all these supreme power assumes forms, like teachers are known as Sadgurus, and in our scriptures it is said Bhagavan Vishnu has taken 10 avatars. So when we talk about an avatar or something like that, a particular form arrives to allow us to understand the utility value of each form. You know, this microphone, it has a utility value without which I cannot speak. So every single thing has a utility value. We have this bottle which holds water. The computer, it does what it is supposed to do. The camera does. So every form has a name, and the name and form indicate a particular action that it is supposed to do. That's why it has arrived in this world. So the utilitarian value of each name and form indicates to us its function, its purpose. So the avatars try to show us our purpose. Why have we come over here? What is our purpose? What is our goal? Some avatars allow us to understand the physical world. Some avatars allow us to understand the subtle world. And some avatars allow us to understand absolute subtle being. And that is for each and every single person, the mind and the intellect are different. All of us don't have the intelligence of Einstein, you know. We all have different varying degrees of emotions and thoughts and understanding within us. So each one of us learns in a very different way. We all don't have the same careers. We all don't eat the same food. So whatever is so unique to us, we take that and we make the most of it. And that is what the avatars teach us. That is the purpose behind it. And in the process, it teaches us how to come back onto this path of righteousness called dharma. Whenever we swaver away from our natural mode of being, then we don't tend to our purpose. So these incarnations come to usher us back onto the path of what is considered to be righteous for the evolution of the soul. And thus we have these avatars. They are worshipped in many forms. The avatars are worshipped as father, as mother, as saints, as sages. So we have male deities, we have female deities, and we look at our Ganeshji, half elephant and half human being. Some people will look at it and roll their eyes, say, yeah, right, a god half elephant and half man. But he represents the mighty power of our mind. Our mind is stubborn. Our mind is active. So his vehicle is a mouse, a tiny little mouse and a giant body. So the giant body represents the power of the mind. And then that little mouse represents 18 hours it is just running around, going here, going there. That is the active principle of the mind. But only intellect can stop that mind and come to a rest. So Hindu deities are not just deities for worship, but they have great significance in allowing the soul to evolve. And every year during a particular time, we make that Ganesha out of clay and we worship it. And then we dispose of into a body of water. It's symbolic of when we wake up in the morning, our mind rises. And when it is awake, our mind does so many things. Only at the end of the day for the mind to go back. And where does the mind go? Into the lake of body, which is 80% water. You ask any doctor. So that Ganesha rises in this pool of water, does what it, and at the end of the day goes back. So even our festivals are there to teach us about the journey of the soul. Externally we do things only to lead us to higher places on the inside. So that is why the worship of the form is so important. It indicates to us our journey, our purpose. What am I doing? Why am I here? Where am I headed? Without a solid form and an action, it would be difficult for our mind to process. Respect for all religions. Hinduism has great regard for any thought process. We think any thought is considered to be a divine thought because the origin of the thought is nothing from divinity. So in India, the concept of fighting with somebody on the tenets of spirituality and religion is just unacceptable. There are people who come over here, they want to convert. There is no such thing as conversion in Hinduism. Because whatever thought you have is right. Then why convert your thought to my thought? That's injustice to your thought. So we don't believe in conversion. That's why there is so much peace and harmony in all thoughts. Each thought is a valid thought. There are Western religions have a founder. We don't have a founder of Hinduism. This is The oldest religion on this planet has no founder. And the only founder of Hinduism is the scriptures known as Sanatan Dharma. They are revelations. These great people in India found long time ago, during the inception of Hinduism, the land yielded so much food. They didn't have to work hard for food. The mighty Himalayas provided water perennially. So food and water was readily available, and there wasn't much to do. So they went deep into understanding, what is my purpose? The nature is so beautiful. The creation is so perfect. Who created? Why did he create? What is his name? What is the purpose behind it? Why did he create me? Why do I have such a good life? Why is my brother going through difficult times? Why is it that my sister went through divorce and so on and so forth? What is this purpose of this world? How come I'm happy? How come the other person's not? So they pondered upon these questions, which took them to the soaring heights of Himalayas, and quietly they meditated upon it. They didn't have to work for food. Food was available. So they plucked the fruits they ate, went back into meditation, and in deep meditation, the divinity revealed, and we call that the Vedas. The initial portion of the Vedas is a eulogy to this divine world. Agni Suktam, Purusha Suktam, Shri Suktam, Medha Suktam, eulogy of intelligence, eulogy to the fire force, eulogy to the water force, Agamarshana Suktam, the property of water to cleanse and to restore divinity. And we are 80% water. Every day, if we chant that, every single cell of our body basks in this water. And if we do eulogy to this water god, they found the mind immediately becomes tranquil. So this is what they went through, and this is how revelations came about, scriptures. And they are instruction manuals that unlock the mystery of the goal and the means to achieving those goals in this life itself. One is called Shruti, which I said is revelations, heard. Vedas and Upanishad. And the other one is Smriti. These people were so humbled that they were the receptors of revelations, and they wrote down various scriptures for their students to follow. Hey, this is what I did, and this is where I reached. Perhaps if you do this, it will help you. So we have great people who wrote to guide us. One of them is called Vyasa Smriti Bhagavad Gita. It is not a revelation. It is written by a great sage who edited the four Vedas, put them into proper place. There is something known as Manusmriti. It is a code of conduct of a human being. How should a human being behave? If I come to your home, what are the things that you should do to welcome me? So, a code of conduct for an average human being, for a king, for a politician, everything is talked about. If a utopic society needs to be created for the human being to thrive, to go and rise in spirituality. So that is called the Smriti. For us to follow these codes to grow. They speak about the four goals, the material goal, the entertainment. We also have to have fun. We just cannot, live by rules and all those things. But the rules also should be there so that we enjoy our life. It is not that we have to torture ourselves on this process of liberation and realization. No, we have to enjoy it. So the kama, the entertainment and fun, how do we balance that in our life? And what are the proper pursuits of human endeavors as dharma, and then moksha, the spiritual goal? Each and every single one all of us have to have a material goal. Somebody wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a teacher, just goes on, and they're all great. But through the path of becoming a teacher, I must evolve. Through this path of medicine, I should be liberated. Through this path of law, I should be liberated. So, these type of purusharthas allow us to make the most of our life by living a good, happy life. And the ashram, the life is broken into 4 sections, 25, 25, 25, and 25. So first 25 years of our life, we shouldn't do anything except acquire knowledge. That's it. In India, it is known as Brahmacharya Ashram, a student life. The sole purpose of parents is to provide an environment so that the child studies. Because the mind does not have any external influence. The more we grow, the more we are exposed to the world, the more contrary thoughts pollute this mind and it obstructs our education. There are people who go back to college in 50s and 60s. Nothing wrong, it's good. The energy of our mind gets depleted though. So, the culture has evolved to put great amount of emphasis on education. You may have heard in Chinese culture, the same thing. Tiger mom. All of us go through that in Indian culture. We have tiger moms. Why? Brahmacharya ashram. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do in 25 years. It may sound a little harsh, but it helps facilitate the growth of mind and the intellect. The whole purpose is grow by utilizing proper knowledge rather than it acquiring knowledge from unacceptable sources and thus limiting itself in its growth. So when systematic education is there, we see people strive great, not only in material world but in spiritual world as well. So we have Brahmacharya ashram, student life, householder, and then retirement from our life, and renunciation. This is my life. I have circumvented the middle two and gone directly because there was no desire to get married and have a life. So I just took on to the life of monasticism. The self is pure consciousness, and we believe that we are not just body, mind, and intellect, but we are the divine soul known as Om, the Atman. And by nature we are happy, wise, and free. And that's why we seek joy. That's why we seek freedom. That's why we seek happiness. It's our birthright, because the soul is ever free. The soul is ever full. We seek fulfillment. From womb to the tomb, our journey is to acquire material objects and relationships. Why? To fulfill us. But if we, in Hinduism teaches us that the soul itself is completely fulfilled, but this soul now has identified with matter, and matter is never complete. So we always try to fulfill our desires by a better car, a better home, a better relationship. People get married for happiness. People get divorced for happiness. So this is the autobiography of a soul. It is a journey. We are all seeking the same. We are seeking happiness. We are seeking fulfillment. And pure consciousness is the root of it, and thus we seek it. The scriptures lay out the goal of our life to be this supreme joy and bliss that we are, and thus we seek it. This awakening to truth frees us from all needs and unhappiness from birth to death, And that itself in Hinduism is called moksha, when we are liberated from our dependence on this material world. We find our dependence on our spouse, our parents. That is the nucleus. And then from there, dependence to our home, our relationship, and from people to objects, career. And never do we pay attention to ourselves. Who really am I who's seeking all these things? Only when we ponder upon it, we learn to value values and not valuables. The valuable is a label that I put onto it. Somebody puts a lot of value to Tesla, not to me. It doesn't give me happiness. Why do I have it? I would kick it out of my own driveway. A Mazda works just fine. Cheap and takes me farther. Right? So, we have to look at our valuables. How much value am I drawing from it? What is really at value for me? This is a journey in realizing who we are, and that is called moksha, when we are liberated from the matter world around us. The law of karma. This is very important. Each one of us are products of our past. When we learn, we live our life tomorrow better. When we have learned the lessons, then our life becomes that much better. So, the law of karma is a law of cause and effect. Nothing in this world is born, no effect is produced without a cause. There is a purpose. So, accepting that we or I am the creator of our own destiny, that our present condition is due to our past thoughts, words, deeds, conduct, and our future mental state will depend upon our past, present action and thoughts. This big V called vasana. This is the total bank balance of our karmic debt. We are all fulfilling our karmic debt in the process of living our life and creating more. This is the only thing which separates us from the divinity. We have desires. We have desires. We have desires. Innumerable lives we have lived, and we've been around. Pin has been pegged in a square hole. And we keep on circulating, no end. Why? Because we are victims of our own creation. Our own thought process limits us from growing. When we are rigid, when we don't accept all these things, it creates giant walls within, not outside. It's easy to build a China wall outside. But to break the inner wall, Berlin Wall may come down, but the inner wall to come down requires knowledge, because the inner wall is ignorance. And when we remove our ill thoughts which bind us, that liberates us, and that is what karma has created. Thus, the importance of living a proper, noble, righteous life that keeps our karmic debt in checks and balance. If we haven't disturbed the world will not disturb us. If we have not injured the world will not injure us. Thus, the importance of dharma. I'm not reading all these things. A life of personal discipline, good conduct, service to others, keeping good of good company, right effort, controlling greed, anger, and hatred, and developing virtues. These are the teachings of all religions on the planet. No religion preaches hatred. Otherwise, you cannot call it religion. Realignment of thought. This is the etymology of religion, realignment. This is how we realign our thoughts. So that's called religion. We believe that God abides in everyone and all life is sacred, to be loved and revered, and we therefore practice something known as ahimsa. Today happens to be October 2nd. In India it is a national holiday remembering the great Mahatma Gandhi, who liberated India from the clutches of British Empire by non-violence. He was beaten up umpteen times, put into jail so many times. He took and he took and he took and he told others to just take. Finally, the British realized the power of a tiny little Hindu. The bones may be broken, but the spirit is not broken. And this is what ahimsa is. Selfless service, nishkama karma. The 4 yogas, various paths to reach that same destination. The mountaintop is one, but people take so many different paths. The path of action, doing proper action, understanding that this action has a purpose. We can do proper action in any vocation that we pick in our life. Understanding that devotion, serving others with devotion, it is not just singing the glory of the name of the Lord, and then synthesis of yoga and pranayama and meditation, so many beautiful ways. And then of course, the highest form of Hinduism is the Upanishads, the Vedas, which is knowledge. Which is what I am speaking from that standpoint, that I am this divinity and I have to know who I am. And when the knowledge is there, then it reflects in the actions that I do, the words that I speak, so on and so forth. This is India's gift to the world, yoga. Today we have yoga centers in all across every single continent. Hinduism developed understanding of the mind and how to purify it, quieten it, and help people discover the divine inner silence. You may have heard of life coach. There are so many people who become life coach. What I talked about is life coach. Remembering God always. So for an observant Hindu, there is no activity in daily life that is divorced from worship. Prayer is an integral part of day's activity, with prayers being prescribed for activities such as walking, bathing, eating, greeting others. So many, every single action is a worship. And this is the sound symbol Om. The waking dream and deep sleep state Aum. Earlier I started, the entire world of names and forms are condensed into Aum. We just have to open our mouth. Words are created. It takes effort. Ooh, anything which is fascinating is ooh. Even, oh my God, wow, ooh, that is amazing. So that's the ooh factor when we are fascinated by the material world. Ooh. And then the fascination eventually has to go. So that is Aum. Thank you for your time. Hari Om. we will take a break, or if there is another presentation. Okay, I will let you address them.
5-minute bathroom break.
Yeah, I guess.
Madhav, please come and speak something. We have to have
Now we
a
just kind of move on to the next presentation.
next presentation.
Yeah,
Then
do that.
Jean Ji will do it.
Our next presentation is, thank you Swamiji, by the way, it was a wonderful presentation, as always.
He's going to speak again. Someone will be speaking again later.
Right. And Swamiji will be speaking again about the architecture of the temples. So next is about meditation. It's Mr. Gene Silverblatt. You all, I don't know if probably are not the same students. He gave the presentation last year as well. It was very well received. We all enjoyed it as well. Welcome, Mr. Silverblatt.
Please, please, absolutely. It's a blessing.
Say y'all. And my name is Gene, and I'm a yogi. Now that's a little different than a Swami. Swamiji's, Shivanandaji is a renunciant, a monk. I am not. I am one who practices the meditation and lifestyle of yoga that we're going to talk about. Now that somebody like Swamiji can be a Swami and a yogi, but the rest of us are not left out. We too can be yogis. So a little bit about, just for a moment, my background. When I was about your age, I was a sophomore in college, and I read my first book about yogis, those who meditate and practice that lifestyle. And I immediately was just enthralled. And so I was able to enroll right away into a 6-month study abroad to India so I could investigate and learn more about yoga. And I have never looked back. And that was almost 50 years ago. Yoga is so much more than the physical asanas or postures of hatha yoga that we're familiar with for their physical benefits, their health benefits, and let's be honest, maybe their hipness. But yes, yoga does still meet that original purpose of health, but also its original purpose of helping us to be able to sit very still for prolonged periods of meditation. So my point is, they should not be mistaken for the goal, and that is meditation, and not simply just good abs and tight butts. The type of yoga we are talking about is a way of life. It is about realizing our true purpose of life, as Swamiji has said. Self-realization of our true nature and oneness with God as Satchidananda, which loosely means eternal bliss awareness. Yoga is a Sanskrit word for union. That means union or reuniting of our individual soul, the Atman, with that all-pervading spirit, which we might call God. yoga wisdom, yoga practice, yoga lifestyle is really the very essence of Sanatana Dharma, the eternal truth that came to us in the ancient Vedas that Swamiji has spoken about. It goes back that far, so you have to ask yourself, at what point, if it's been practiced for millennia, is it not something that is just based on blind belief or imagination? There's got to be something more to that, and that's what I wanted to investigate. I mean, the ecstatic states of love, of bliss, of joy, of peace that passeth all understanding, which they call Shanti. As I said, bliss they call Ananda. That's been attested to by its practitioners from ancient texts to modern times. In the Bhagavad Gita, you read about Bhagavan Krishna, who is kind of like the Hindu Christ, an avatar. And he calls it Raja Yoga, the royal path. And in the 6th chapter of the Gita, he says, the yogi is deemed greater than body disciplining ascetics, greater even than the followers of the path of wisdom or the path of action. Be thou, O Arjuna, a yogi. So what is that? What does that mean? Well, in short, and certainly just in my inadequate words, Raja holds that the physical stimuli of the world so overwhelms our sense mind, our nerves, our minds, our sensory input. It calls that sense-oriented mind manas. And it gets so overwhelmed that we miss the extraordinarily subtle experiences of those divine realms. And because of the misuse of our free will that we're also endowed with, we keep choosing identification with the superficial ego, and we let our desires and our lack of discrimination and our lack of personal discipline lead us ever further into the very ever-changing, very fickle world. It means that in that kind of world where nothing is nothing permanent, nothing really lasts, but we are looking for that everlasting love and peace. And we're not going to find it in that kind of environment. However, once we calm the mind and get that experience, then we can become aware of that very subtle world, that union with the divine spirit that pervades everywhere, that Swamiji talked about. And then, no matter what our worldly circumstances, we will truly have heaven on earth. So that sounds nice. How do we do it? Okay. Well, Raja Yoga goes beyond theory and lays out very specific methods. As put by the great sage Patanjali in his really unequaled Yoga Sutras, he says that method has 8 limbs or steps. He tells us we must learn to move that energy and consciousness away from that ever restless and changing outer world, inward, through proper living, yama and niyama, proper training of the body for prolonged periods of meditation and stillness called asanas, along with yogic techniques for moving that energy and consciousness away from the senses and into the spine, where it awakens that energy there called the kundalini, and control of that energy is called pranayama. Then and only then can we achieve really the stillness and the interiorization of pratyahara, the next step, where the sensory world is cut off from disturbing that inner peace. And that is followed by concentration and true meditation, and eventually achieving the ecstatic states of oneness with the divine called samadhi. Oh, I think I have just a couple minutes to dive a little deeper, and then we'll do a little practice. How about that? As I mentioned, an essential part of yoga meditation is moving the energy and consciousness called prana inside to that kundalini. And we do that and move it through the subtle or astral spine called the sushumna. And when we do that, we become aware of what I call the churches. In Sanskrit, they call them the chakras that are located along that subtle spinal center, and eventually move it up to the point between the eyebrow, where you see many Hindus have a mark there, and that spiritual doorway and into the light of divine bliss and joy and love of the divine. So the best way, even if only for a couple minutes, is to do just a little practice meditation, and then I'll sum up here. Okay? So we'll do a little visualization, but first we have to assume the correct posture. And that means that's what we call the asana for meditation. And you can sit cross-legged on the floor, but you can also, and this will be more appropriate since you're in chairs, is to just sit upright in a chair, feet flat on the floor. What's important is that your back is not leaning against the back of the chair. You're sitting up straight, the spine, you don't want the nerves pinched. So you might have to put away your laptop or cell phone for just a minute. I can see you in my mind's eye out there. And just sit straight, head level. The most important part now is to open up the chest. So, oh good, thank you. We'll trade this. Good. Thank you. Perfect. And so we want to be able to just sit straight, head straight. I'd like to put my hands just resting on my thighs at the point between the thigh and the abdomen. Kind of pull the shoulders back just a little bit. That opens up the chest cavity. My palms of my hands are just turned up for this. That's the way I like it. Again, head level. And gently and without strain, with the eyes closed or partially closed, just put the gaze up to about the level of the forehead. Towards that, you don't have to get cross-eyed now. Just relaxed. Close your eyes, keep your head level, okay? And relax the body. Just relax your head, your face, your throat. your chest, your arms. Just relax. Okay? Now calm the mind. Make just a mental effort. Make a mental intention just to go within for a couple of minutes without letting distractions, worries, or judgments crowd in. Let's just do a little affirmation. Just whisper after me. I relax and cast aside all my mental burdens, allowing God to express through me His perfect love, peace, and wisdom. One more time now, just silently, after me. I relax and cast aside all my mental burdens, allowing God to express through me His perfect love, peace, and wisdom. Now let's all just take a deep and slow breath through our nostrils, maybe to a count of about 5 or 10. Just slowly breathe in, and then just hold the breath to about the same count, 5 or 10. And then exhale to the same count through the mouth. Just nice and slow. Again, breathe in through the nostrils slowly and just count mentally. And then just hold the breath for the same count. And then breathe out to that count. Just one more time on your own. You can't hold the breath or force it. It's just got to be comfortable and recognize how when the breath slows down, the mind slows down. Okay, just notice that. So now we're going to try to focus on those mystical centers in the spine area. Actually, it's the astral spine just behind the physical spine. So with eyes still closed and looking gently upward, try and imagine the breath going in and out of the bottom of your spine, the very base, called the coccyx. Just feel your breath goes in and out. It's going through maybe like you had a mouth there. Now to the next spiritual center, next chakra in the sacral center is about 2 inches higher, at the level of about the groin. Just feel that energy, that consciousness, that breath just in and out. Now up to the lumbar area, that's about the belly button behind it. We're just starting to become aware of these centers. Next is at the dorsal or heart level. Now up to the top of the shoulders, the base of the neck, the cervical area. Now the next chakra is at the base of the brain in the back, the medulla oblongata, that little kind of indentation in the back of your head. And now, just imagine this light, this breath, this consciousness at that kutastha, the point between the eyebrows. Right now we're just using imagination, but that's the start point. Just be gently looking up that direction with the eyes closed, but just feel that light. Now just move your consciousness out into the great light and spread it all around you, in front of you, in back, left and right. Above and below, just fill the auditorium with that light. Fill the auditorium with your love. And fill the whole campus. The full city. Just fill the whole world, sending out that love and that feeling of peace. One more time, just mentally affirm with me, I relax and cast aside all my mental burdens, allowing God to express through me His perfect love, peace, and wisdom. Now just open your eyes and just notice, just take stock. Are you the same as what you were 10 minutes ago? Or are you feeling just a little bit more centered? Just a little taste of what's possible? I have heard that meditation kind of likened to the base of a little pyramid. And on each side of that pyramid, we have a different path to the pinnacle to reach it. Actually, we need all those paths at different times. It's not one or the other. But there's the path of, as Swamiji said, of devotion. There's also the path of that selfless action and making an offering of all your activities to the divine rather than to the ego. And then there's the path he mentioned of wise understanding and living of truth. And he's going to talk about architecture, and there's ritual, which help serve as just reminders of that life and that way to live it. But at the base of all those different pathways, at the base of that pyramid, is meditation. So it enhances whatever you do and enhances all those paths. It's not an alternative to them. It's a part of all of them. So, in conclusion, it really, I want to say, regardless of your religious practices, you can practice yoga meditation. What I find so appealing about this ancient tradition, for me personally, is it's so scientific. Swamiji made a little reference to this. It is logical. It is sequential. It is verifiable. So it is certainly, you can read about it, but also you can just experiment with it, just like the ancient sages did, and see if you can't verify it in your own life. To me, it really is India's greatest gift to the world. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Go Bears.
Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Today, this is the first time I've made this presentation to talk about the Hindu temple architecture. Like Mr. Jean was speaking about, this entire religion is verifiable and extremely scientific. This physical human body, if something goes wrong, different parts of the body, detailed information resides in each part, and physicians have spent years trying to master the eye, an ophthalmologist, a lung, a pulmonologist, a heart, a cardiologist, the bone structure, orthopedics. And to make our life comfortable, the physical form, the human body has been studied so well. And our advances in science and technology have brought about life expectancy of a human body to be quite good, and we have eradicated so many grave diseases, especially in Africa and in Asia, smallpox, and we have typhoid, cholera. So many diseases have been eradicated because of a detailed study of what this human body is and what we can do with this great gift of God created perfect instrument. Just like the physicians have mastered this body, our sages, our rishis, are the physicians of the subtle body. They have perfectly understood the senses. And I'm not just talking about eye, how an ophthalmologist understands it as the cornea, the retina, the optic nerve, and how the information is passed on to the cerebellum and the occipital lobe and how the entire body functions. I'm not talking about the physiology behind an eye, but our rishis have understood the sight as one of the senses, hearing as one of the senses, and not an ENT surgeon understanding of an ear, speech, the skin, touch, smell. Our rishis understood that these 5 senses are gateways into this divine instrument, and it brings the outside world inside, and it transforms the soul living within. And the soul peeps out as though via the gateways of ears, eyes, nose. And we respond to this entire world with these 5 senses of perception. And what is inside, very few of us get a chance to know. This mind, considered to be the lord of the 5 senses, in Hinduism, the mind is referred to as the 6th sense. And the great sage Patanjali, which he talked about as the 8 limbs of taking a raw soul and taking it towards the acme of realization through these 8 different steps, is what the rishis have captured into the construction of a Hindu temple. When a Hindu goes to a Hindu temple, it is a reminder as to what this instrument is and how we are going in and what are we doing. It is not an ordinary journey. In olden days, this massive structure used to fill up the skyline of the city. Just like when we go to New York City and we have the concrete jungle skyline. We used to have beautiful skyline of the temple. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. The Hindu temples that I'm going to talk about were constructed some 3000 BC up to about 1,000 years old. Some of the temples you're seeing over here in pictures, they are approximately 2,000 to 1,000 years old. And they are monuments left behind by great rishis to understand this human physiology and what is there beyond the physical as the subtle, and what is there beyond the subtle as the causal, and what is there beyond the causal as the true light. So the 3 bodies are gross body, the subtle body, the blue stuff which is mind, intellect, the ego, and the memory, and then the V, the vasanas, our cause, our desires, our impressions, our tendencies are all captured over here. So these brown, blue, and black are the three bodies, and beyond that is something unfathomable. And that is what the rishis have captured. You see over here a giant, beautiful structure. So the layers of human personality are, first is the gross physical form. The next one is a subtle body, the inner equipment driving the gross physical form, and that is referred to as the soul, the subtle body, the jiva. All those things are referred to as a subtle body. Then there is a cause behind it. Then there is the world of objects, the world outside of the world of objects, which is O, and the world on the inside, which is emotions and thoughts. And this is what we interact with. Our interaction is either with the world of objects on the outside, or on the inside we are interacting with our emotions and thoughts. So it is considered to be the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts is what we interact with. And this is what the spiritual physicians, I'd like to call the rishis, who did a great study and came up with the temple architectures. Then there is that V, the causal body, the blueprint of the human personality. Each one of us has umpteen different types of desires. And we don't know our own desires until a particular day when the desires comes out and it manifests because the environment is conducive for the desire to manifest. And that is how we know our own desires and thoughts. Another way of knowing that is through meditation, which is what was talked about in the previous section of yoga and meditation. This is to know ourselves. So the Indian temples, they are constructed using the human form. It depicts the human form. So we have a human body lying down, and when the human body is lying down, we have, when we are sleeping, our feet, then our knees, our groin area, navel, stomach, our chest, our throat, our face, our spiritual center, and then our crown. So imagine a person sleeping, and Jean very beautifully talked about the chakras and the energy confluences within our body. Our body is a live electromechanical powerhouse that generates all different types of energies. We even say, oh, this person has a good aura. But we have to know what an aura is. We have to know what the presence of that person is. And spiritually evolved people can tell. The desires within come out as a rotten presence or a divine presence. So we have these energy confluences. We have 7 of them. And the whole temple is built upon the understanding of the energy principles and how we take a dormant energy and make it alive. How that energy flows. And this is, you see this huge structure. It is called Gopuram. I'm sorry, I forgot my pointer, but it's written over there, Gopuram. Gopuram, Go has so many different meanings, but in a temple architecture, the Gopurams are 4 different places in a very square, beautiful grid, they are placed representing the 5 senses of perception. The tongue and the skin are brought into one, so that's why there are 4 gopurams. The hearing, which is the east gopuram, the seeing, which is the north gopuram, the smelling, which is the south gopuram, and then the west one is the touch and the taste. All of them combined. So, when we enter through these gateways into the temple, we are entering from outside into our own journey of within. We are entering the sacred chamber of the self. And that's how we have entered. And then in the groin area, there is a flag pole that sits. It is known as Dvajastamba. So that is where the energy resides. And thus, the highest point, they put a flag over there. That flag is an insignia of an energy which is there in dormant, but based upon the wind, the energy will start flowing. In the same way, our energy is there, but based upon the winds of passion and desire, our energy starts flowing in various directions. So a flagpole is placed in that very first area. It moves on and goes to something known as Bali Pitham. That is where we offer sacrifice. The first thought when it rises in our mind, then we act upon the thought. That is called the sacrifice. I've taken a thought and I've grabbed it and I'm going to run with that thought. So that is where sacrifice happens. It's the Bali Pitham. And then in the next place is the vehicle of that particular deity, because each one of us are deities. And each one of us are walking, talking packets of desires, wanting to act upon them. Remember, I had talked about it. We want to be happy. So we take these desires and we run to make ourselves happy. Either we run to a Target, a Walmart, coffee shop, Starbucks, wherever it is, whatever that thought is, we make a run for it. So that making a run for it is that vehicle, which is what we use to make a run for it. And typically, it is a vehicle which is the insignia of that particular deity. Each one of us, I talked about in my earlier talk as well, as per our own pocket strengths and our likes, somebody may drive a Honda Civic or somebody may drive a Bentley. Depending upon what you can afford, the only point is whether you drive a Civic or a Bentley is going from point A to point B, that's it. So you can go comfortably in a Bentley, even hire a driver, whatnot, but you're going to need a vehicle. So that vehicle is represented to make that journey. And then we arrive in this chamber of fighting through so many obstacles, and we arrive in this grand place where our dream is just beginning to fulfill. And we look around and we savor the glory. I fought through. I've arrived. Then we want to enjoy it. So we go further in, and that is where the third eye resides, the sanctum sanctorum, where now it is a state of the fulfillment of the desire. And that's where the third eye resides. And we are one with our enjoyment, and we've achieved our goal. This is a Hindu temple. It is depicted by, it's a story of our desires and where our desires take us. And everything is in a square grid. It has a perfect vastu. I don't have enough time to go into certain terms, but va astu, va dwelling, or come over here, come and dwell. That is called va stu. And wherever there is a dwelling place, we call home, we make it personalized. So each temple is personalized, and there are various geometric patterns depending upon a masculine desire, a feminine desire. If you go to a female temple, it will be a feast for an OBGYN because the female physiology is filled with hormones. So all that is described because as per the hormone, so will be the state of the enjoyment of a particular desire. One day she may like it, the other day the same thing she may not like it because the cycle is different. So the female deity temples are a sight to be seen with the various levels of chakras depicted, all because of the human female physiology just being a packet of hormones. So very beautifully the whole structure comes out for us to understand the enjoyment pattern. So over here I've just for my regular students of Vedanta, I go into deep explanation as the dwelling place of various deity in various parts of the temple. For this particular matter, I'm just going to move on to the next one. It's a little bit much. So in different parts of India, different aspects of the body is used to understand our relationship with this body and the journey within. This is a typical Kerala temple. In Kerala temple, they don't have ornate structures, but very simple square 5 grids representing the 5 layers of human personality. The physical, then the over here, the vital breath, which connects the physical with the subtle, the vital breath sheath, the mental sheath, the intellectual sheath, the causal sheath, and then the divinity. So temples such as Guruvayur temple and Devi Bhagavati temple in Tripuranitura and all these places, the construction is done in a very unique style. It is a place where there is so much rain, a green, lushy land, and within that entire tropical house, the human body rises to tell us what the purpose is in the tropics. It's a very beautiful architecture. This is, I've taken Guruvayur temple and placed, this is a perfect square architecture, and every place it is placed, various objects are placed. The idol is way in the center. There is a way for you to enter over there, a square thing representing the sanctum sanctorum, steps, outlet for the water, doing all those things represents how we fulfill our desires, basically. The 4 entrants are nothing but the 4 senses, 5 senses combined into it: hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, all those things. Once we enter, how is the journey of fulfillment of a desire once we see something, once we hear something? So this is an aerial view of a temple, a very famous goddess temple, Madurai Meenakshi. And you can see these giant gopurams rising into the sky. 1500 years ago, when this temple was built, you could see it from miles away because there was nothing over there. In flat land, beautiful giant temples rising, gopurams rising. And you can see there is a water tank. That's exactly where our bladder and kidneys are. The whole thing is constructed according to our human physiology, where the water is required. It is the element which makes the whole body alive. So you can see the water tank. It is in the right corner. In the southeast corner is the fire element, which is where they use to cook food and offer. If you draw a line, this will be north, that will be south. And then WE, west and east, and that is the grid which creates the entire temple. So the head has 8 holes over here. So north has to be high, open. South has to be low and completely closed. We have 2 holes down over here, anus and genital organ, and majority of our holes are over here. There are sinuses within, so the space element, then the air element, lungs, then the fire element, stomach, then the water element, kidneys, then the earth element, our poop and pee and all those things, the rejection of the body is the earth element. So all the elements are lined in particular place, and all that is depicted in the whole temple over here. This is Tiruvannamalai temple. This is a temple dedicated to Lord Shiva. The other one was his consort, Parvati. And in here, this is a fire element depicted over here. In Tamil Nadu, we have 5 temples of Lord Shiva, each one of them dedicated to an element. This is a fire element. This is where heat is at its most, and heat is required to keep the body is kept at a particular temperature. And even little bit variance, we call it fever, so on and so forth. So the fire element is depicted in this temple with the central gopuram, the central sanctum sanctorum, which is where the deity resides. This is a Guruvayur temple in Kerala, and you can see it has multiple water tanks representing the water element in the tropics. Very beautifully done. This is the Somanath temple in north of India, and you can see it is in 3 tiers. And it is not constructed according to the South Indian temples. The South Indian temples take the entire body. The North Indian temples take the 3 states of human functioning: the waking state, the dream state, and then the deep sleep state. So you can see the waking state is where you enter. You can see people are still entering, and you are there. When you come to the second one, everybody stops. Like in our dream state, we arrive in our dream, and all of a sudden the dream world is casted. And we take a stock of our dream, and even dream world is so alive. But only when we wake up, we realize, oh my God, that was a dream. So the waking world and the dream world are very similar. You can see that. Only that the dream one is closer to the inner deep sleep, because within the darkness of void, there exists a light of awareness. So the North Indian temples are simple construction attending to the 3 states in which we live. And you can see thousands of little spikes on top, each representing a desire. Our waking world is filled with desires. Our deep sleep, our dream state is filled with desires. This temple was attacked total of 16 times. This temple was recreated. It is between very close to India-Pakistan border, and we had so much wealth in this entire temple. Many conquerors came to India and robbed off of its spiritual heritage, wealth, but they could not destroy the culture. All the wealth which was in this temple was destroyed. It is, you can see the Arabian Seas in the background. It sits right on the banks of the Arabian Sea and the Arabian Peninsula over here. And even if typhoons and rains, this temple has stood tall for more than 4,000 years. And it is a glory to Lord Shiva, the power of the universe. this is a ruins of the Sun Temple of Konark. It is, the construction is mind-boggling, because whenever the sun falls, it tells the time, exactly what time it is. It is depicted as the chariot of the Sun Lord. The sun god in Hinduism is represented having a chariot and a charioteer, and there are seven horses that pulls the carriage of the sun god. And now we know that the 7 horses represent the 7 bands of white light, which is divided into the visible spectrum. So each horse represents the color of the spectrum of light. And in front of it, you can see those are the 9 planets. It's a ruins of it, but that's where the sun, being the lord of the Milky Way, at least our galaxy over here, representing all the 9 planets over here, it is pulling and drawing it towards, and it's ruined basically. It was 200 years ago, it was completely destroyed. So this temple depicts the story of how light is drawn, and how wherever we go, we drag our own light of awareness. So we are the live chariot. That is what is represented by this particular temple. If you get a chance to go to India just to see the 4,000, 2,000, 1,000-year-old temple, it's a feast for the human eye. Unfortunately, I cannot show inside the temple because photography is not allowed inside. You have to physically go over there and see. And just like our human body, the hallways and everything, there's a temple of 1,000 pillars. There's a temple of 300 some pillars. These pillars are nothing but representing our skeletal system, our bones upon which the whole body rests. There's a chamber which creates water and sound element is there. Some of these pillars, they make sound. Beautiful physiology of the human body is depicted in this temple to make us realize that this is the vehicle you're going to use for your journey to self-realization. And what is within it is amazing. Now, this is a Lingaraj temple in Bhubaneswar, Orissa. This temple is about 3,000 years old. It is one of the oldest temples still functioning, and the sanctum is huge, and you can see there are thousands of little round ones. Actually, when you enter this temple, there are so many distractions. You end up going to so many other places, and you actually miss the main sanctum. That is to show us that in our life we are so fascinated by distractions that we miss our appointments that we have in our life. So it's a huge 10-acre complex with thousands of temples within to show us the game that our mind plays with ourselves in distracting ourselves and not allowing us to complete our journey. It's a beautiful temple. Here is the Jagannath Puri Odisha temple. It is also depicting the 3 states, the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. And each one of them rising, showing us that the deep sleep state, the void is not that void. The void is filled with pure divinity and awareness. So, and this is also a 2,000-year-old temple, just majestic temple rising into the skyline of the city. Now, I will take, the 4 entrances. They are called Gopurams. And I've taken one such temple. This is a Meenakshi temple. And when you zoom into them, you will find thousands of different structures and deities and stories are told. This is a symbolic representation that our senses only tells the story of the world. The real story is only when we merge with the truth. As long as we are trapped in this world of illusions, we will tell stories. And each one of these senses will distract by telling us stories. Beautiful structures go high and tall into the sky, just filled with stories. It is an autobiography of a human being. Each one of us differ from each other by the stories that we have to tell by our experiences. And our experiences are denoted by our senses. That's all. Some people will end up with the autobiography on New York Times bestseller, and some of us will wither away in time. Nobody will know, but yet we would have a story to tell. Nobody to listen. Such is a complicated journey of a human being. When we arrive into this world, we arrive with so much passion, with so much desire. But desires create more desires. And more desires creates more distractions. And we don't find time for peace and silence and meditation. When we enter these temples, we find that there are huge halls. This is a 1,000-hall temple of Chidambaram. In Tamil Nadu, there's a temple of Lord Shiva depicting the space element. And you can sit in any one of these halls. The actual hall where the main sanctum is, it is empty. And right next to it is Lord Shiva dancing in his pose somewhere over here. Oh, it's hidden behind the screen. We see Lord Shiva dancing. So our life is a dance. And we will keep on dancing. We will have 1,000 halls to dance. But one fine Aradra day, we have to cast off our dance and remain still in meditation. And when we remain still in meditation and we actually go to the main sanctum, there is nothing in there. Pure awareness, only to be merged. It's a beautiful temple, and you can see the halls are ornately, intricately carved. And these carvings are our stories, our desires. We go over there in fascination, we look at, oh my God, why did this person chase this dog? Why did this God have to do this? Only to realize, why do we do what we do? It's always, life looks so crystal clear when we look at somebody else's problem and we point fingers to them. Why did they do that? Stupid person. But we don't realize when we point them, 3 fingers are pointing back at us. What are you doing? So the halls of the temples are filled with beautiful structures to remind us that these are our stories. The temple is a hallmark to that. In pyramids of Egypt, there are 4 sides, but they close to a point. Our temples are 4-sided, but it opens up for us to understand that the divinity cannot be captured. It is beyond the scope of the capturing by human mind and intellect. In fact, it has to be merged into. Am I running out of time? Okay. So, I have no time for Hindu deities, okay? I just did architecture. Hindu deities which house these temples, they are in a place of their own. What can I say? So, perhaps next time. Thank you. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. May all be happy, may all be healthy, may none suffer, may all rejoice in divinity. May peace be, peace be, peace be. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you Swamiji for some great lectures, and thank you Jean for guiding us through meditation. On behalf of the faculty and of the Baylor students and the Baylor University, I just want to thank the entirety of the people that make this happen for us every year at the Hindu Temple. Thank you very much. We're very grateful for this long-term and friendly relationship we have with you. I hope you enjoyed it back there at Baylor, and have a good rest of the day.